It's the Suncast podcast, covering the Sun Conference and all its sports.
What's up, Suncast Nation? It's your boy Manny here, and I'm going to bring you the ribbon, the final, so to speak, not official final, but the last preview here of the Sun Conference 2023-24 athletic year. What a year it's been. Historic, unpredictable, classic, thrilling. You could use a lot of adjectives to describe what this 2023-24 calendar year brought us on the athletic side. It's just been so much fun from late August, early September to now in the first weekend now coming up of May. What hasn't this conference produced in every sport, not just some of the main ones you may think of, but every single one from the fall sports to winter and spring has done a nice job at giving us a nice ending to an absolutely unforgettable Sun Conference athletic scene. Little plan here for the episode. It's just going to be me, quick solo episode here. Going to be previewing the final two tournaments this weekend for the Sun Conference in baseball and softball. We're also going to talk about the weekend that was this past weekend when we talk about some Sun Conference champions that were crowned, some teams that continue their historic run, some teams that were able to get a monkey off their back, so to speak. So we're definitely going to talk a little bit about that. And then we'll talk about the national tournaments. First for lacrosse, as it is starting right now. I'm recording this Wednesday at 12. It's almost 1 o'clock right now, and we're talking about SCAD, who's already underway against Indiana Tech. They're going to be in halftime. I'll give you guys a score update for that one. And we'll also talk about Kaiser as they play Cumberlands of Kentucky at 6 p.m. All times are Eastern times, and you can watch the games through a link on the NAIA website, or you can follow it with live stats, again, on the NAIA website. And then we'll talk about the beach volleyball national tournament and how it went for the Weber Warriors and the Ave Maria Gyrenes. But like I mentioned, we're going to talk about the weekend that was first. We're going to start with golf. Sun Conference champions, Kaiser on the women's side. They go back-to-back, winning the crown with a team score of 898. They had an 18-stroke gap between them and the number 2 team in the tournament. An absolutely impressive, dominant run there for the Seahawks as they go back-to-back and get another Sun Conference crown to their name. Meanwhile, on the men's side, the Southeastern Fire, they were sitting in third after 2 rounds and shot a 282 in the final to beat Kaiser by 1 stroke to win their first Sun Conference tournament championship since 2013, over a decade ago. Great job there by the Southeastern Fire men's team on a classic and exhilarating end there to their tournament in the golf scene. For tennis, Sun Conference champions, Kaiser. They win on the women's side for the 6th straight time and on the men's side for the 8th straight time. You cannot talk about dominant without talking about Kaiser tennis right now in the Sun Conference. For track and field, Southeastern Fire, the 5th straight track and field crown for them as they look to continue their stranglehold after another year. Congratulations to the Southeastern track and field program as they get another one under their belt. I mentioned the lacrosse world. NAIA tournament already underway at halftime. 7-3. SCAD is up over Indiana Tech. SCAD is led by, of course, the player of the year in the Sun Conference. Clark has 3 goals. The only player right now with 2 or more goals for them. They have 7, like I mentioned. Very, very good start here for the SCAD Bees as they try to hold on here in the second half and beat the Indiana Tech Warriors. And again, the Sun Conference will also be on display later tonight at 6 p.m. again Eastern time against the Seahawks, who are playing against the Cumberland of Kentucky. Eastern time, all games again on the NAIA website. Talk about beach volleyball. We went from a tournament that is starting to a tournament that is over. In the beach volleyball world, Weber and Ave, they struggled to find success in pool play early on. However, in the Sun Conference Finals rematch between the 2 teams, Ave was not able to come out with the victory as the Warriors hold on for that one in the final match of Pool A. Both teams made it to the quarterfinals. Both teams fell in the quarterfinals, unfortunately. However, the Weber Warriors lost to the eventual champion Vanguard 3-1, and then the Ave Maria Gyrenes lost to the runner-ups in the OU AZ team 3-2. So, silver lining, you want to know where you are in the conference. You played against the 2 teams that ended up being the last 2 standing, and you had them very good. You played them very well, just showing where the beach volleyball scene is coming right now for the Sun Conference and the way it's on an upward trajectory. overall, great season for Sun Conference Beach Volleyball. Weber three-peats with their Sun Conference Tournament Championship. Ave Maria gets into the national tournament for the first time in their program's history. A lot of good things right now working in the favor of beach volleyball. Meanwhile, flag football, Kaiser, after they win the regular season championship, they also win the Sun Conference Tournament Championship after beating the Nighthawks, the reigning champs, 6-0. It's the program's second title for the Seahawks in its history as they get ready for their national tournament that will start this weekend, May 7th through the 10th. Well, next week, I should say, May 7th through the 10th. Keep an eye out for that one as the Sun Conference looks to finally let everybody know that we are the best conference when it comes to flag football in the country. We go now to the last two Sun Conference tournament to be played, baseball, softball, and I got a few things to talk about for both of them. I think a summary or a description, I think is the word I would use here for these two tournaments is simple. They are about as polar opposite-ish as you can have. By that, I mean, for softball, you really don't know who can win that one. You do not know who's going to win that tournament. It is a very, very, very possible chance that, and I'll get into it, there are three teams that I think have a legitimate chance, and in the rest of the field, there's a dark horse, and the rest of the field is a little bit of a, everything's got to break right, but if they do, I wouldn't be surprised when you've seen that happen before. Baseball, it's really a Southeastern versus the field type of thing. And again, I'll get into that one in a minute here. And actually, we'll start with baseball because I think that's the more clear cut and obvious of the two. A weekend recap first. I predicted St. Thomas was going to beat Florida Memorial 3-1. Got that one right. Predicted Weber and Ave would split 2-2. Ave beat Weber 3-1. Congrats to the Gyrenes on that one. I predicted Southeastern would sweep Kaiser. I got the win right, just didn't get the numbers right. Southeastern got 3 off Kaiser. Kaiser was able to get 1 off of the Fire, which was pretty big. We're talking about the playoff standings here. Again, as I'm recording this, the official bracket has not been released yet, but we know where the standings fell. We know who's going to play who for the most part. So I predicted it'll be Southeastern, Weber, St. Thomas, Warner, Kaiser, Ave, and Floma will be the one out. I got every single one right except I flipped Kaiser and Warner. I had Warner being the 4th seed. Kaiser ended up getting that one, but everything else was on point. So I'm not saying anything except I got lucky. Let's be real. I got lucky. Throwing some numbers out there. Sometimes the math is just on your side. For the tournament itself, it starts on Thursday. We will be following it along on Instagram and on X. You can follow us at Suncast Podcast for score updates, highlights, clips, all that good stuff. So please, please, please go over there, follow us, keep an eye out for that. Have notifications on so that way you can get up-to-date information throughout the weekend, again, for both baseball and softball. So the tournament prediction for me, again, double elimination, as always. My tier list is as follows. Again, for the baseball world, it's pretty simple. The team to beat is Southeastern. You want to be Sun Conference champions, you have to beat Southeastern, and you have to beat them twice. That's just the way it works. It's been like that for the past few years. Nothing new. The best chance to do that is Weber. And again, nothing crazy here. They have been the second best team in the conference all year, wire to wire. The dark horse, Kaiser, St. Thomas. Now, to be honest with you, when I say dark horse, there's a gap between team to beat. There's a small gap between them and the best chance, which is Weber. And I say small, probably a little bit bigger than small, but there's a gap. And there's a big gap between best chance and dark horse. I don't know if any other of these teams in the conference can really touch what Southeast and Weber have done this year. I think that championship match is going to be an absolute banger. I think it's going to feed generations to come, families to come, because Weber is hungry. Weber is game. They want to prove just how good they have become. And they're just a team on a mission right now. With that being said, though, Southeastern ain't going to let it be easy. Southeastern's going to make you have to take it from them. And it's hard to take one from them because it's that time of year. They have been wire to wire the best team in the nation. They have not relinquished the number 1 seed in the polls. The final polls will be coming out next week, May 8th. But they've been number 1 all year. But Weber has been top 5, top 10 minimum. But really, they've been fighting with that top 5 all year. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen when those two teams collide. I think they're on a collision course. I really do. For Weber and Ave Maria, I think the tournament has to break right for them. They got to create plays. They got to create and capitalize on moments. The storylines for each team is I think as follows. Southeastern is simple. Can anyone beat them? Can anyone beat them? Or is the pitching just too much? Is the hitting too much? Is the team too much? Is it just too good of a program right now that they're hitting on all cylinders? They're hitting on all cylinders. It's just the way it is. Weber, their storyline is, do they have enough to stop Southeastern? And it's not going to be an individual. It's not going to be the home run plays. It's going to be a team that comes together as a collective and says, we are going to put pressure on this Fire team. Everybody knows that going into a matchup against Southeastern, whether it's a 1-game or a 4-game series, you are not the favorites. But you can use that to your advantage. You can go in there and understand, look, they're the ones that have to close this out. They're the ones that are picked to win this. We just got to go out there and put pressure on them. We just got to go out there and not let them get comfortable, not let them be overly confident, not let them feel like they're in control. If you do that, you put pressure on teams, anything can happen. At the end of the day, anything can happen. We've seen it so many times in the world of sports. You never know what can go wrong. One unlucky bounce here, one pass ball there, one wild throw here. Next thing you know, you didn't know what was going to happen. For St. Thomas, I think it's the pitching, and it's always been the pitching from the beginning of the year to now. If the pitching can come together at the right time, could they make a run? Now, Southeastern and Weber, they're going to be in the World Series hunt. That's no surprise. They're going to make it. Even if both teams fell somehow in the beginning of this conference tournament, they have done enough resume-wise to be in it with an at-large bid. Again, I think Southeastern will get the automatic bid, and then Weber will get an at-large bid. St. Thomas, they're a little bit more in the world of, if you want to be in the World Series hunt, you have to win the conference tournament. That's a lot. Again, I'm a firm believer the most dangerous team in any sport is the team with nothing to lose. St. Thomas knows they want to extend their season past this weekend. They need to be that desperate team. They need to go for everything. They need to be hitting on P's and Q's, crossing all their T's, dotting all their I's. They need to be on their best game. But it starts with the pitching. If the pitching can come together, I think that gives them the best chance. I'm not saying it guarantees anything, but it gives them their best chance. For Kaiser, statistically, they are the best team in the conference. I was looking at the stats earlier today, and they're, I believe, second in hitting. I believe they're up top 20. I think they're top 3 in every statistical category as a team. But it hasn't felt like that. It hasn't felt like that. I take you back to when they got swept by St. Thomas. I take you back. Now, they did take one off Southeastern, which was very impressive. So you can definitely build off of that. But again, it hasn't felt like they've really been that team all year. They've had spurts, they've had moments, but it hasn't really felt like that. So Weber and Ave Maria's, like I mentioned, can they create and capitalize off moments? Can they create miscues? Can they put so much pressure that you just weren't ready for it? It caught you by surprise, situations like that. It's going to be a little scrappy. It's going to be a situation where if St. Thomas and Kaiser have to play almost perfect baseball to win the tournament, Warner and Ave have to play perfect baseball to win the tournament. That's just the way it works right now. That's just the world that they have put themselves in. Again, you make it to the conference tournament. That's a feat in and of itself. But now you want to try and extend it by at least one game. The teams at the bottom of this standings right now, it takes it one game at a time. It's 2 losses. All you got to do is lock in one game at a time, one pitch at a time, one inning at a time. In the end, though, like I mentioned, I think it's Southeastern. I don't see them losing a game in the tournament. I see them going and doing it again, going back to back with the Sun Conference crown. I see them going into the World Series as the team to beat. And there's really not much else to say about that. There really isn't anything else to say. Like I mentioned, follow us at the Suncast Podcast on Instagram, on X, so you can look up the highlights, the live stats, all that good stuff that we will be posting throughout the weekend. We now head over to softball. If baseball was a situation of, how it probably will end because the team to beat is just the best team in the country right now, softball is the opposite in the sense of you don't know who's going to win it. Now, I'm not saying it's wide open. I'm not saying that 6 teams have legitimate chances. What I am saying is there are 3 teams that have a legitimate chance. There are 1 team that scares me. They scare me. And there's 2 teams that I think have proven they can put pressure on teams and proven they can win big games. Can they do that consecutively? We'll see. We'll start with the same way we did with baseball. Weekend recap. Start from the bottom on the way up. Warner, I had them beating Ave Maria 2-1. I was right on that one, called it on the nose. Warner able to celebrate senior night on a good note. For Weber and Florida Memorial, I had Weber beating Florida Memorial 2-1. Florida Memorial got that one 2-1. Got me on that one. I apologize. Then we go Southeastern Kaiser. I had Southeastern over Kaiser. I got that one right. And then the one that hurt a little bit, but it was a great game, great series, all the way to the last possible pitch. St. Thomas, I had them over Coastal, but Coastal ended up dropping the first one, winning the next two. I think that's very impressive. So I definitely credit that one to Coastal Georgia, as they also repeat as Sun Conference regular season champions for the first time in their program's history, and now look to do the same thing for the tournament itself. The playoff standings are as follows: Coastal, St. Thomas, Southeastern, Kaiser, Florida Memorial, Weber. Warner. Warner gets the final spot there. Weber is the team that is out. The tournament, it's so unpredictable. This year has really shown that in its fullest form. Obviously, we know who Coastal is. In the latest top 25 poll that literally just came out 3 or so hours ago, Coastal still in the top 25. They moved up one spot, number 21, after being number 22 last polls. Southeastern, after I believe they were top 25, or at least in the hunt there for sure at the beginning of the year, kind of fallen off. They were always receiving votes. I never think they were not receiving votes at any point throughout the year. But now they're in the top 25 again at number 25. So congrats to the Southeastern Fire. St. Thomas, I think it's a little bit of a steep drop, but they were number 19 previously. They drop a series not supposed to. They aren't able to beat Coastal. Now you're receiving votes. I still think that's a steep drop. I would have thought if you're going to put Southeastern at 25, I would have put Southeastern 24, St. Thomas 25, something along those lines. Again, it's a whole thing. It's not just Sun Conference, but that's just how I feel. I think that's a steep drop, but it is what it is. Bobcats still receiving votes. Bobcats still going to be in that hunt. They are the number 2 seed in the conference for a reason, so I'm very excited to see what my Bobcats can do this weekend. Tournament starts Thursday. It will start Thursday. Again, the official brackets, the official schedule has not been released yet. We will release that, or we will repost that once it is posted by the conference on our Instagram. From what I have gathered from past tournaments and the schedule and all that stuff, what I'm assuming is going to happen is Coastal will await the winner of Kaiser Florida Memorial. St. Thomas will await the winner of Southeastern Warner, and then we get the ball rolling. Just like baseball, we will be following it with score updates, highlights, all that good stuff at the Suncast Podcast on Instagram and X. Go follow that, please. Turn on post notifications, turn on all that good stuff so you can get up to the latest details. Just like baseball, double elimination for the tournament. The tier list here, they're a little different. In the naming of them for me. I had mentioned for baseball, Southeastern, the team to beat. Seems pretty on the nose. For softball, it's championship contenders, because these 3 teams here, which are the top three teams in the conference, I believe all had a very good chance. Now, for my math guys out there, or my math people out there, 3 divided by 100 is 33, 33, and 34. Okay. Everybody understand how that math works? Cool. If you told me you have 1 more percent to give to one of these 3 teams, who would you give it to? The answer is Coastal. Why? They did it again. Regular season champions, back to back. They have the toughest, or had the toughest remaining schedule for the last 2 weekends. You had to play Southeastern the weekend before St. Thomas at home, but you had to play them to give yourself the best chance to be regular season champions. Because if Coastal loses that series, still have a chance, but it's not. It makes the series a must-win, like a double must-win against St. Thomas. You dropped the first one against Southeastern, and I'm thinking, I don't know if you can beat Southeastern 2 times in a row, even though they're at home. I think they heard me, because the next one beat them in the next 2 games. Walk off game number 2, game number 3, never in doubt. Cool. You go on the road now against St. Thomas. It's a tough place to play against. It's a tough team to play at home. And you drop the first one again. And I even said on the broadcast, I did not know who to pick in that series, and so I went with whoever won the first game. Whoever won the first game, I would go with them. St. Thomas did it, and same argument. I just did not believe that you could beat St. Thomas twice in a row when all they have to do win 1 and 2, especially at home. Coastal did it. They turned it around, and they beat St. Thomas 2 games in a row. I cannot, again, taking my St. Thomas hat off and being completely unbiased. I cannot not give them the edge when we talk about the collective unit of Coastal, St. Thomas Southeastern, and who has the best chance. Statistically, who has the best chance right now going into the tournament this weekend. With that being said, I'll give you the prediction for the tournament itself at the end. St. Thomas has a very, very good chance to win this. Southeastern, who, if we were gonna maybe not give everybody even, I think they have the least chance, but they are still one of the best teams in the country for a reason. They still have a chance to get an at-large bid. I don't know if they'll get it, but I think they'll probably end up getting it, especially how I perceive their conference success going. I think these 3 teams are more even. I think, honestly, if you gave me that extra percent, I'd throw it out the window. I'd give it to the field. I'd go 33 Coastal, 33 St. Thomas, 33 Southeastern, and 1% other. Because I think that's how much these 3 teams, although all different, although all have their weaknesses, they have been the best 3 in the conference this year. That 4th team, that 4th seed team, the one that scares me is Kaiser. Because offensively, when they're hitting, they're hitting. Statistically, they were the best team in the conference. RBIs, batting percentage, all that good stuff. They had the number 1 hitter in the conference. I think just like you can always see a pitcher get hot, you can see a team get hot offensively. If Kaiser kind of goes with a mindset of you are not going to be able to outscore us and just be aggressive with the bats, be disciplined, aggressively disciplined, I think is the best way to put it. They give themselves the best chance. I've seen on my own 2 eyes that they are able, with that pitching circle, to put pressure on the other teams. I remember when they played against St. Thomas, I said I thought it was going to be a situation where the Seahawks offense would put pressure on the St. Thomas offense. To be honest, it flipped. But in the game that the Seahawks did beat the Bobcats in, that's what happened. There was pressure on it for the offense, but it was mostly from the pitching. The pitching from the Seahawks was very, very good. So I think the Seahawks have a dark horse chance, and not as wide or anything like that, like far from those top 3 that I just talked about. I just think there's a little bit more of a gap there, and I trust the other 3 a little bit more. With that said, though, Kaiser scares me. They really do scare me. As for Warner and Ave, or Warner and Flomo, excuse me, similar to Ave and Warner on the baseball side, things just got to go right. They got to go right. It's that simple. That's what happens when you are the last 2 teams into the conference tournament. With that said, though, for Memorial, they've been able to prove that they can beat teams in high pressure moments. I think that was a big win against the Seahawks in the series. Big win. They were able to get one off St. Thomas. They've been able to do some things this season. So I would not overlook them, count them out, anything like that. As for Warner, they have one of the best pitchers in the conference in Madeline Morton. So you cannot count them out, because I've seen firsthand how her pitching can really galvanize the team. And we saw it last year in the conference tournament. They got hot. They rode her arm, and she got them really, really far. So we'll see if she can do that again and maybe even farther. For the storylines for each team, Coastal, I think their thing, and again, it's not a weakness. I think weakness is too strong of a word. I just think we've seen them be able to get runners on base, but I've also seen them not been able to bring them home. I remember multiple times looking at the box scores from past series throughout the year, they'll have 9, 10 people left on base at times. And, you're struggling to get people home. And now, again, there's a lot of things that go into it. Obviously, it's not just you get a runner on, you're supposed to bring them back. No, obviously not. But you can't relinquish opportunities like that. If you're getting 9, 10, 11 on, you got to bring in at least 1 or 2. If you're talking about 4 to 5 on, understandable. But if you're getting runners on, whether it's walks, hits, and you're getting them on your advanced thing with steal, stuff like that, you got to capitalize for sure. For St. Thomas, it's a little bit of the same thing, but the step before that, I've seen the bats go cold on them. I have seen the bats go cold on them. I've seen the bats not be there. I've seen them struggle to get runners on, period. When they're hitting, they're hitting. When they're hitting, they're hitting. But Otherwise, the defense has been stellar all year. The pitching has been stellar all year. In the end, though, your defense can only take you so far. I believe defense wins championships in any sport, 100%. But the name of the game is getting more runners home than the other team. You can be the best defense, but you put a lot of pressure on your defense to be perfect. Against Kaiser, they played 2 games. Stellar defense. Offense was tremendous. And again, I don't even need it to be tremendous. It just needs to be good, consistent. Third game, couple of unlucky bounces on defense. That wasn't the Bobcats' fault, but that allowed the Seahawks to get momentum. That allowed the Seahawks to break through that glass ceiling and get that win. The silver lining for St. Thomas is that they lead the conference in extra base hits. And again, that is a momentum building opportunity for them. Whether it's a double by Anatune, whether it's a first bat, second pitch of this game home run by Maya Achenbach, whether it's Bianca Palacio stepping into the box and being able to ground a double and just somehow get it all the way out to center field. Whatever it is, we've seen them be able to have extra base hits and let that kind of rejuvenate or galvanize the troops, rally the troops offensively. Those are very hard to come by consistently. So that's where my eyes are this weekend. Can the bats be consistent game to game, inning to inning, at bat to at bat? For Kaiser, even though they scare me, when you look at those top 3 teams I'm talking about, they lost to Southeastern, they lost to St. Thomas, they lost to Coastal. You haven't gotten that monkey off your back. So my question is, going into the tournament, when you're going to run to at least 2 of these teams, if my math's correct, how are you going to respond? It's not about X's and O's with them. We know they're a great team. We know that they have the pitching to do it. We know they have the fielding to do it. We know they have the hitting to do it. You got to do it against those teams now. You got to do it against the team that you know you're going to see, because you know that it's going to run through one of, if not 2, if not maybe 3 of those teams. So that's where I'm going to be looking at. When you play those teams, how will you respond in a 1-game situation? For Southeastern, they're a little different. They're a little different just because you look at the numbers, they appear to be one of the top teams in the conference, which they are. But for some reason, when they were playing certain games, stuff like that, I never got that feeling from them. The numbers, you can't argue with the numbers. On paper, you see Southeastern, you see the numbers that they're putting up, stolen bases, hitting, pitching, all that stuff. The best freshmen I've in the conference, along with Coastal, of course. You just are a little confused on like the aura, so to speak. I want to see Southeastern go out there, and I want to see if they believe it. They believe it. I'm excited to see them play against St. Thomas again. I'm excited to see them play against Coastal again, because even though they dropped those 2 series, they were there and they had a chance to do it. Southeastern scares me, or the thing that I think will help them, when they get on base, they make you think. Stolen bases are a thing for them. They're a bunch of grade A thieves over there in Lakeland. And I say that with the utmost compliment. The utmost, just, they're on base. You better lock in at second base or just give them the bag, because they're going to take it one way or another. I think the biggest thing for them is closing out games. There have been some close ones down the stretch. They probably want back. I think the pitching is superb. I think the batting can be a little bit better at times, but the base running is where it kind of makes up for it. So I'm curious if they can get runners on. I think that will be the best way for them to really just come out and have an absolutely successful Sun Conference tournament run. For Warner, I know the pitching is going to be there. Again, Madeline Board, one of the best in the conference for another year. Can the offense be there? It's really that simple. Going up against St. Thomas, Coastal, Southeastern, Kaiser, you got to be able to put up runs. And while you have a pitcher like Madeline, who's going to kind of slow the game down and get it a 1-0, 2-1 type of game. You can't bank on that. You can't bank on that. The teams have now scouted her. They've prepared for her for a whole season. You can't expect it to be the same thing. You can't expect that. Florida Memorial, can they throw the first punch? If they throw the first punch, I think they give themselves the best chance. If they prove that they're gonna come into these games and not just, and I don't think they're going to, but really send home the message of we believe we should be here and we believe we can beat anybody in this tournament right now. Just go out there and have that mindset. I think that gives them their best chance. They're a team that you don't look at the numbers. Don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about where they finish in the season. Don't worry about none of that. They needed to win the tournament. They needed to win their last series to get in. They did it. They got in. That's the type of mindset that this team needs to have. You want to advance in this season. You want to advance your season by another game, by another day. Win the game in front of you. Desperate teams are the scariest teams in any sport. In the end, though, the tournament, I think, comes down to a rematch. St. Thomas, Coastal. I think it's going to be either the Bobcats getting their first since 2011, I believe. Actually, no, I believe since 2017, 18, somewhere, one of those two. Coastal trying to get their second in a row. History will be made for one of these two teams. And I think we go the distance. I think we go to the final game. That if necessary game that everybody sees on the schedule. I think that's where we're going to go. Because I don't see either of these teams really not forcing that game 7, so to speak, atmosphere. And this time I'm going St. Thomas. I know I just gave the whole spiel at the beginning of this about Coastal and giving them the advantage on the numbers. Like if we were dropping it down by the extra percentage with a top 3 in the conference. But I just think St. Thomas, they feel like they should have won against Coastal. I watched it in my own 2 eyes. Bryce Peacock pitched an absolutely amazing game in that third one. Great bounce back for her after a rough first day. The hitting was superb. I give Coastal credit because, again, Maya Achenbach in her first at-bat of game 3 sends one over the wall. And the next at-bat for the Mariners, they tie it with a 2-run homer of their own. Or they tie it and take the lead with a 2-run homer of their own. That's impressive. That lets Coastal know that we're here. These new kids on the block in St. Thomas, they're scrappy, they're hungry, they're coming, but we're still here. With that said, though, it's hard to beat a team again and again. I just think St. Thomas, they obviously ride the hand and the arm of Anatune, Melody Vizcaino, the two best pitching duo in the conference. I said it here first. Bianca Palacios, who's been as reliable as you can ask for in the box when their team needs her the most, with leading the team in RBIs. The outfield for the Bobcats, Caitlin Martinez, Natalie Kopisova, and Maya Achenbach have done some absolutely ridiculous things out there. They've made it hard for teams to get hits off the Bobcats. I like to call them the no-fly zone. I like to call the outfield for the Bobcats the no-fly zone because those 3 make sure that if it's in the air, it's going into the glove. I just trust the Bobcats. I think it's hard for me to see them not get their get back, so to speak. Just like I mentioned before in baseball, Coastal's not gonna give it to them. You got to go take it. I think the Bobcats took it from Coastal, they took it right back from the Bobcats, and the Bobcats weren't able to take it again from Coastal in that game 3. But this time, I think the Bobcats take it and hold on to it. I think this time the Bobcats finish the mission. I think this time the Bobcats finish their story. With that, though, I think it's safe to say, assuming that the Bobcats and Coastal Georgia get to the championship game, like we are the final 2 standing in the conference, even though they're not in the top 25 right now, I think St. Thomas would get an at-large bid if they don't win the tournament. Coastal would get an at-large bid as well. I think those 2 teams are going to be in opening rounds. I do believe that Southeastern is the one that I think, even though they're in top 25 now, the resume, I'm curious about that. When talking about conference opponents, finishing 3rd, even though you only finished behind Coastal and St. Thomas, you still finished 3rd. I'm curious to see if they make it far enough. Could we send 3 for softball? I'd bet on it. I'm not a betting man, but I would bet on it. I would bet on it because I do think that the national scene likes to see a new crop, a new conference really just come to life and just blossom. And that's what we've seen right now. We know it's been coastal and southeastern dominated, but St. Thomas has now firmly edged itself into the conversation on the national world. Kaiser and Warner and those teams like that, they've proven that they're still looking to break through that conference level, but they're making it competitive. They're going out there and winning games off these top teams, putting teams in tough positions to win games. So the Sun Conference is blossoming right now in the world of softball, and I'm very excited to be a part of it. I'm very excited to be able to cover it on a week-to-week basis. In the end, I'm going to wrap it up like this. Again, this is not the final, so to speak, episode of Suncast for the 2023-24 athletic year. But in a way, it does feel like it because, again, this is the last weekend of Sun Conference tournaments. We've crowned a champion in everything. Back with football, now ending it here with softball and baseball. It has been an absolute pleasure. I speak for Reagan. I speak for everybody here at Suncast, Brian, Joe, everybody that helps out, whether it's here on the podcast, whether it's with the IG, with the post, whatever it is. We appreciate you guys for allowing us to do this. We appreciate you guys for being a part of it. We appreciate the athletes for being so willing. We appreciate the coaches for being so communicative. We'll go with that, sure. And giving us access to your athletes, giving us access to you as people to be able to come on to the podcast, interview you guys, and just open that chain of communication, that line that maybe people don't have. I remember, again, this is my first full year here at Suncast, and I still remember my first interview all the way back in the fall with Alexander Bruno from Volleyball. I remember interviewing Jasmine Edwards from Warner. I remember interviewing Coach Walker at St. Thomas. I remember interviewing all the interviews because they're just so much fun, and I truly enjoy it. And like I said, I know I speak for everybody here when I say we appreciate you guys for another successful Sun Conference season. We appreciate you guys for another successful Suncast season. We ain't going anywhere. It's only going up from here. The motion is going to continue motioning. But I do want to take this moment to just say thank you all. We appreciate you. Enjoy this last weekend here of Sun Conference tournaments. Enjoy going into the summer with a little bit of softball and baseball and flag football and all that good stuff on the national scene. And we will see you guys in the fall. But again, there might be one or two more episodes before that. But if not, we appreciate you guys. We thank you guys. And here's to an even better 2024-2025 calendar year. See y'all there.